This meeting of the Public Property Management Committee is being conducted electronically pursuant to Governor Bill Lee Executive Order 16. I will ask for a motion that conducting the meeting electronically is necessary to protect public health, safety, and welfare in light of the coronavirus. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Not call the roll.
Commissioner Cook? Yes. Mr. Gammon?
Yes.
Mr. Dodd?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Buchanan?
Yes.
Mr. Gooch?
Yes.
Chairman McAdoo?
Yes. Okay. Do we want to go ahead and do a roll call vote? Okay, that was on the electronic approval of the minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of last meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I reviewed the minutes and find them in order and move for approval.
Motion to have a second. Any discussion? If not, call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook? Yes. Chairman McAdoo?
Yes. Next on the agenda, Rutherford County surplus property inventory update. Director Steve Sadler.
There we go. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mayor, we've sent out letters on the ones that y'all approved for last month. They have, two of them have till May 3rd to reply, and the other has to May 10th to reply. There's two others in there that one we turned over to the county attorney to look at. That was on the piece of property that was given to us to build a fire hall on back years ago, and it wouldn't work, you know, in this day and time. And so that's being researched through the county attorney's office, and we'll come back with answers on that. We've already had some dialogue back and forth on it. And then also the one over on Bragg Avenue, or Bragg Road, over in Smyrna. That was the encroachment on the property over there, and so we're looking at it and going to do a survey over there on that piece of property to show exactly what's been encroached on, you know, as far as depth and side. And so we'll come back with you hopefully next month with a report on that to show you where we're at on that one. Any questions?
Questions?
We're not bringing any new ones forward. We want to kind of work through these since these are our first ones and work the bugs out on those, and then we'll be ready to hit some others when y'all are ready.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, Tdot request for construction plus slope easements on Rutherford County property on Malloy Lane.
Mr. Hughes. Mike Hughes.
Thank you, Chairman McAdoo. This relates to the right of entry that was granted to Tdot back in the January of this year for their Highway 99 road widening project. They've got to do a little work on Malloy Lane, and what we found out is that they had changed their plans. So in the process of reviewing and changing their plans, they found out they will need to do a little work on the sheriff's property, sheriff's office property on Malloy Lane. They are asking for 308 square feet of a slope easement and 1,067 square feet of a temporary construction easement. And if you look on your iPads, there are a couple documents, well, several documents from Tdot and that will show the work being done and the offers for compensation. So they're not asking for any right-of-way, so they're just asking to change the grade of the ground and be able to get on the property and do some work, and they're actually paying for these easements. And I will, if I can get, there is street view, and you can kind of see the slope. There's a trustee working on mowing the ground, weed eating the ground, so it's a little steep right there, and Tdot's needing to get into that area and change the grade a little bit and do some work, and that's all they're asking for, and they're going to pay us for that work.
Okay, we have any questions? Okay.
Got
One
one question, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Johnson, is this in your district? This Malloy Lane? Have you talked to Mr. Russell, Bubba Russell, who owns that car repair place right there?
on the corner?
Maybe just want to stop in there and touch base with him, make sure he's comfortable, because they're going to come pretty close. He doesn't have a lot of room in there to stack. They're coming pretty close to him, but just touch base with him and make an offer. Would be a good gesture to say that they're coming, you know, because we're going to widen from 2-lane to 4-lane in front of you. But I think it'd be good if you just stopped in there and you could be the conduit in case there's any questions they get over into his property or something. Heritage Dairies is on one side and he's on this side as you're going back to the back side of the Sheriff's Department.
You can see on the screen, Mayor, we are considered Track 63, County of Rutherford here,
Yeah.
and this portion is what Tdot is asking for us to allow the slope easement and the construction easement. And then, like you're saying, this is your mechanics property here on the corner. They'll need to do the same thing with them.
Correct.
So the state will contact him?
Yes, they will, but it probably wouldn't hurt to have Commissioner Johnson to talk to him as well.
Just let them know they're coming, and in case he has any questions, you can carry it back, and Mike can be your conduit to Tdot in case he has any questions.
You need a motion on this?
Yep, because it's money
Okay.
taking place.
Mike, I'm sure as astute as you are in what you're doing, that all the I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed.
Yes, sir.
And everything is in order, that we're not going to be hung out on a limb on anything.
No, sir. It's a temporary construction easement just for construction, and then they're changing the grade of the ground. That's why they need the slope easement. So we're not losing any property. They're just doing some work on our sheriff's property on Malloy.
Motion to move forward with it.
Second.
Motion and second. Any more discussion? If not, call the roll.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Buchanan?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Chairman McAdoo?
Yes. Okay, next on the agenda, Rockville Public Safety Building, outside the city sewage customer annexation request.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hughes had sent me an email because he had received a form, and so I met with him this morning, and I'll turn it over to him and let him explain what they're requesting of us, because this is for our public safety building on the premises of Rockville Elementary School. But it backs up to where we're going to try to tie in to the city water and sewer system. Mike, you got a map?
Thank you, Mayor. The Mayor's correct. We're proposing to build the new Rockville Public Safety Building on the Rockville Elementary School campus. If you can see it on the screen here where my cursor is located, kind of moving in circles. There is a City of Murfreesboro sewer system that serves the school, the elementary school, the middle, and the high school. Let me turn off CUD. What we're asking for is to hook into the city, the sewer system, but they've asked us to do two things. And on your iPad, there is a City of Murfreesboro Development Agreement for Water and Sewer Services to property outside the city limits. And that is being, this is a standard one that you see on there, but the city legal department is working with our county attorney to adjust it accordingly to meet our requirements. That is one thing that we have to sign this contract agreement with the city of Murfreesboro to be able to tie on their sewer. And the next item that you see in the commission documents is a petition for annexation by the city of Murfreesboro. And what they have told me is that that is a standard requirement that we have to ask for annexation into the city of Murfreesboro. They will deny it, what they've been told, because they don't want to serve the property with, fire, police, trash pickup, and all that other. And it typically, this is just the standard, steps that are involved with the outside the city customer request. However, when we were meeting with the mayor this morning, he brought up an excellent question. Did the Tan Oaks School have to do this request for annexation? And I talked to Trey Lee, the Assistant Superintendent for Engineering and Construction for the school system, and he said not for Tan Oaks, but they have for other projects in the past. They did for Oakland Middle because the city limits were all around, and they did not see an issue with that. So we felt it best to bring both of these documents forward to you. We're going to have some more discussions with the city of Murfreesboro. Trey Lee says that schools and government entities have a pass on this annexation request, and we're going to discuss that more with the city. But we'd like to present them to you tonight, just in case we need to get the mayor's permission, y'all to give the mayor permission to sign these documents if we have to have this signed. So I hope I haven't confused you, but these are steps that are required to hook up to city sewer when you're outside the city limits.
I make a motion to allow the mayor to seek proper counsel from you and the school board, since they're familiar with this process, and if y'all deem it appropriate and not detrimental to the county, that he sign it.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Motion second by Commissioner Gannon. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, are there, in this annexation, are there any residents that will be annexed?
No, it would just be the subject property. It would not, and Doug can probably help me with this, the state has changed the rules on annexation. It doesn't have to be contiguous with city limits, and I can turn on the current city limits. It's still several parcels to the north, I believe, or a couple, well, one, there's a gap between us. This development, there's a new city subdivision going in, a couple lots to the north, and that's the limits of the city limits. So what they would do if they did annex, they could go down the highway and annex our site. But what they've told me is this is just a standard step. They have to ask for this with outside the city customers.
And on this map, I don't see, if they did annex our part, that it's not going to encompass any other residents as far as making a pocket of county in a city. Am I correct to see that?
Yes, sir. They typically what they could do is just go down the right of way of Highway 99,
right,
and then annex the part if it were to be annexed. But what they've told me is this is just a standard hurdle that we have to cross to ask for the sewer connection.
Okay.
And I'm going to revise my motion, having listened to Trey, if we can do this without an amendment. My motion is that the annexation be denied and we are allowed to access the sewer.
Okay. I'll need the mayor's help to discuss that with the,
Understand that, Commissioner Gannon? You did the same.
Wait.
You'll second it? His motion?
Second.
I think we can work this out. But we can work it out with the city. Yeah, it made me a little nervous when he presented it to me and when they requested that, and that's when I said, well, about Plainview? I haven't heard anything about that.
Would it be
Looking on sea sewer out there.
Yeah, well, would it be similar to Murfreesboro sewage when it was ran to the nursing home? You remember that?
Yeah.
We ran it all the way to the nursing home, and it didn't involve no annexation or whatever to the city.
CCRC.
Yeah. You remember that? I know Trey was here when that, yeah. We ran it from Murfreesboro City sewage all the way to the nursing home.
Under the train track.
Yeah. And that didn't involve no annexation, so, yeah. Okay, any other discussion?
I'll just say one more thing, Mr. Chairman. I think if, as we move forward with our public safety buildings, our intent at some point, based on funding, is to put another location of a public safety building on the right-hand side of the property on 231 on the Walter Hill Elementary School. And we'll probably be required to do the same thing.
yes, sir, there, and also behind Christiana Elementary School on
Christiana
Parsons
Elementary.
Road. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're going to run into this a couple more times, so now's a good time to ferret this out. And
Want to address the city with all three of these?
yeah,
Are you doing
we'll tell
it?
them what we have in mind. Yes, sir.
Hey, are you satisfied with that, Commissioner Dodd? Yes, sir. Commissioner Gannon? Any more discussion? So what was the final motion? Motion to deny annexation.
But we can still get the sewer.
It's sewer.
Right. We'll still have to sign the outside the city customer contract,
Gotcha.
but we're going to ask to do that without annexation.
The only thing I can reference to is like when we ran it to the nursing home.
Sure.
Any more discussion? If not, call the roll.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Buchanan,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook, Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Yes.
Chairman McAdoo.
Next on the agenda, Goldstein Building, other options.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, last month you asked me to go and sit down and have a meeting with Mayor McFarland and Craig Tyndall, which I did. And we looked at our options based on the motion made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by you, Mr. Chairman, when it came down to spending almost $900,000 for a new HVAC system. I think comments were made, really like to check our options before we go spending that kind of money into an old building. So what are our options? And we talked about some last week, if you know, or will remember. We talked about where the gazebo is on the corner lot of Church and Vine, that we put back in 1992, put $350,000 in support structure piers in the parking garage to come up with a 6-story county building, and the gazebo staircase would empty into the foyer of the county building. Talked to at one point in time under prior administration in the city, they were totally against that. That's what forced the county at that time to go down and build 319 Maple instead of building over there, because the city didn't want us disrupting the plaza. But this administration with Mayor McFarland, they were wide open. They said, it's yours. You own part of the library. You own part of the parking garage. We pay monthly maintenance fees. to maintain that and parking garage, keep it clean, the lights, telephone, everything in the parking garage. And that's your property. You can do what you want to with it, and they didn't have a problem. They did offer an alternative, was to go where WGNS, they own that building, everything under GNS, the old police annex, which used to be Courier Printing. And they said if you want that and want to swap your section of the library back to us, because they're needing space to expand for their codes and et cetera, then we could give you that, and you could build a building there and possibly go on down to where the USA Motors, I think is the name of it, American Motors something, on the corner of Broad and Church. That's an option. Whatever we do, moving forward, if we were to tear down the Goldstein's building and build new there, then you have to think about where are you going to displace the departments that are there now. Elections, codes, engineering, planning, veterans. Anybody else in there, Mike?
TDEC's moving out.
TDEC's moving out.
June, yes, sir.
Yeah, they have an office there for their Souls guy. They're moving out, I think, over to Old Fort Park, to that building where they may have changed that by now.
No, they're going to be working remote.
Remote,
Yes,
okay, out of his car. Okay, makes sense. If you decide to do that, then where do we move those people? You could go to the old bank, but they've stripped that out that we sold. You could go to Maple Street Grill. That's vacant. You temporarily go in there. You could go to the 4th floor of the current judicial building, which is heated and air conditioned. But it's wide open. You'd have to pipe and drape it, and little cubicles until a new building could be built in that location. Thinking other locations where they could be displaced. So we need to be putting our thinking hats on of what we want to do. Ben says that he can maintain the HVAC and keep repairing it as we move along, but it's a constant repairing that he's doing. Sometimes it's, Mike, you're up on the 2nd floor, but people complain down at codes that it's sometimes cold in the front, warm in the back, or vice versa. Those are the options that I bring back to you. So I open the floor, Mr. Chairman, for discussion, what you want to do. Let me mention, Commissioner Johnson had mentioned to me earlier this week that go down to the sheriff's office and build a building down there. The only thing that would make a nice footprint, nice sized lot, because it contained the jail. My only concern there would be parking. Would there be ample parking? If you went down to the old Courier Printing building and tore that down and built a facility there, you've got the city parking garage behind it you'd have access to. So, Mr. Chairman, I think just open it up for discussion and see what you want to do.
Commissioner Dodd?
We have a lot next to archives.
We do?
We have
That's
a
another
larger
option?
lot
Yes.
at Main and Walnut. Or Main and Front, whatever
Front
that.
Street, yes, sir.
You could possibly build a 2-story building similar to the archives. That'd be a nice size footprint building to go 2 stories.
You could share the parking lots, Mike.
Yeah, and maybe it's been suggested, I don't know, but maybe move elections out to the new 4,000 square foot building where Lisa's going, one stop. We don't have anybody designated for that space in between Lisa and the driver testing facility. Or I'm sorry, license renewal facility. That's an option. Whatever we do, we need to be thinking and going, because we start today, we're 2 years away. 18 months to 2 years to build any type of facility. By the time you go through at least on leases, we're ready to go. We'll talk about her in a minute.
Any other
So,
discussion?
Mayor, would that be more economical to go in leases?
Well, only for one of those agencies that's in Goldstein's. What are we going to do with the other ones? You know, we could go, engineering really doesn't have to be close to the courthouse. You know, they might like being over there
Archives.
next to the archives, or where they could walk down and work out at Mac during lunch or something. I don't know.
This is just me thinking, okay? So it's a historical building, I think, to a lot of people in Murfreesboro, and I kind of respect that. So I've got that side of my thinking, and just looking at the building, it seems to be structurally sound. Am I correct on that? As far as the
We'll let Mr.
the exterior.
Mackin. We'll let Mr. Mackin answer that. Mr. Mackin.
Come up.
And I'm just kind of referring to the outside.
There's lots of sag. This floors sag in the building, and so the floor joists sit. The walls, outside walls, are brick, and those joists just sit in those brick, and so that's just kind of the way that it's built.
I guess this is where I'm going. My thoughts. How much was the air conditioning again?
800 and
75,000 or somewhere in
yeah,
that neighborhood.
About $1
close to-
million?
It was close to 900,000.
Okay. How much?
Close to 900,000.
Okay. I guess my question is, if we were to, I don't say gut, but go in there and make the, if the outside structure, the walls, if that's in good condition, how much, I guess is my question, is to do a diagnostic of the inside, and what would it cost to repair, upgrade, whatever, the inside of the building to make the whole building structurally sound, and would all that cost be less than, say, building a new building? And it's not an answer you can give us right now, I'm sure, but what do y'all think about something like that?
It's an option. Ben, when we put the brick on the facade out front, we bricked it, and I remember there was an issue with that brick, right? It separated.
It had a stone facade. It had a stone facade on the outside, and so it was going to be just kind of a facelift for the building. We were going to take that stone down and put the brick up, and when they pulled that stone up, the front of the building was about 8 inches out of plumb towards the street. And so then that repair, that facelift, turned into kind of an emergency repair. And so they shored up the front, reattached everything. But you just don't, you don't know throughout the building. That's something that we would probably have to have an engineer go through and
We
just
can-
kind of
we could do that
evaluate the whole
To do an
structure.
evaluation on it.
Yeah, a diagnostic evaluation to see, what do we
Structure-wise.
need to make this building
Sure.
100% structurally sound, and with the hope or the idea that the building can be left.
Okay, I think we were talking out on the sidewalk with Brett over at Cadell, who just, is finishing up over across the street where we just came from. He said his estimation to build a building, say if we went to the gazebo, about $5 million. So if we were to tear down Goldstein's, I'd say it'd probably be the same. I don't know. What was he saying? 80 something dollars a square foot?
No, I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what he said.
Steve, you remember? what he said per square foot? 125 a square foot? Okay. And there
Is that to build?
that would be to build from the ground up. That was no demolition cost or anything else.
But as far as, say, if we do a structural diagnostic or evaluation, it could be much more cost effective to gut some of it inside or all of it, some whatever. And I think I may have heard at one time that the residents, the county residents of that building, the departments, kind of liked the building as far as
Sure.
I guess the historical feel or the.
Well, I think
remember
most of the departments, Commissioner, kind of like it over there, don't you?
Yeah, being a tenant, I love my old building. I mean, I'm kind of partial to it, but.
But you talk to any firemen, they don't like it.
Well, again, that's where I'm. Why would they not like it?
Well, I'm not a fireman, but they say it's really it's a tinderbox. It's not sprinklered, and
It does have a sprinkler.
Oh, it does have a
Yes,
sprinkler?
sir, it does, it is sprinkled.
Commissioner,
I'm sorry.
Chairman P. made a comment. He said the way the offices are located, and you get a fire going, and the way it would suck flames. I'm not a firefighter.
And I guess that could be part of our evaluation.
Sure.
Things that we could fix like that to make it a safe building.
Yes, sir.
That's my thought.
One thing that I have learned, the sagging, like the sagging beams, the rafters, you can't straighten them. When you try to put a jack under them and straighten them out, you raise up the whole thing. You know, it's something that might have taken, 25 years, 50 years to get into that kind of shape. You can't just push it back out of it. That's the only thing that I've noticed about some of these old buildings is you almost have to replace instead of trying to straighten something that's
Another option to throw in, Bart Klein, our architect on One Stop, he told me last week that he has a client that is interested in purchasing it if we decide to sell it. So that's a...
It seems to me like that we're always putting money into that building. We have remodeled it, we have done, I don't know what all to it. And it seemed like we just keep adding, putting money into it. And next year, this has happened to it, or next year something else happened.
Right.
And it's never ending. And I just don't think our constituents want us to continue to work. I'm not against old buildings, but I'm against them when it comes to a lot of money involved in them.
Question.
Well, I think that kind of many things that you're referring to is we piecemealed. Okay, so what would it cost, or what would it look like to just do everything that needs to be done? If it means gutting and rebuilding the inside or things like that, how much would that be? And do you think that an evaluation could give us some kind of an idea?
It'd certainly get us closer than we are.
Okay.
That's for sure. Yes, sir.
Well, I would like for us to have that on the table as far as an option. If we're going to list the option, if we could let that be one of the options that we have.
Commissioner Dodd, did you?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I love the old building. A lot of reasons it'd be nice to stay there. And I was just curious, my question was, do we have a fund or access to a fund to do the
Evaluation.
an evaluation?
No, sir.
Or do we need to
We would have to...
make a motion, budget it?
We'd have to go through the budget process, yes, sir. And pull it down. I don't know what... I wouldn't even know where to go ask somebody to do that, but I'm sure somebody out there will do it for us. Ben, you might know somebody, but we'd have to go to budget request, pull down from ending fund balance for whatever that fee might be.
There's one suggestion. Since we are not looking at doing the
Air
conditioning, pretty sure there's some funds out there for that.
Yeah, I was planning on paying for bringing to you to pay for the air conditioning. I had that set aside in that governor's enhancement grant, but we're running close on, we have to spend that money within probably the next 60 days, so I need some kind of movement. Otherwise, we're going to have to send it back to the state.
Commissioner Johnson?
There's an old saying that you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. And I think we need to put this to rest and put that old building out of its misery and look at the jail property down here, maybe building a new building there, and let somebody else rock that other baby to sleep. So that's just my humble opinion. It's outlived its usefulness. I spent 16 years over there in the codes department, and it's just a money pit, and I just think we don't need to continue to keep throwing good money after bad.
I've got you over there.
So we've listed some options. What we could do, let the mayor look at some total budget and try to find a line item of unappropriated monies.
I think I could probably pull it out of that go to budget and request it instead of the air conditioner HVAC that we use it on this. If you want to go down that road, at least we'll know. We can find somebody to come in and do I guess it'd be a structural engineer.
Yes, that's where we would start.
We
Yes,
start
sir.
with a structural engineer.
It's one thing other that I wanted to mention. That building it's actually comprised of, it's 3 different buildings back in that back low corner. That little small area in the back that's got the low roof, that's a separate building. Then the longer building, that's a separate building. That was the Holloway store, and then the 2 buildings together, that's the actual Goldstein building. And so it's multi-levels.
John Lowell, I think you may have a picture at Archives, but that's where the old fire department used to be with the horse-drawn fire pump in that back of that building. I've seen that picture with wood doors on it and the 2 horses pulling a fire brigade out of there.
So what you're saying, we probably would need to look at all 3 buildings.
Well, oh, yeah, yes, sir.
It's all joined.
It's all joined
opened up together
now.
so.
Electrical and everything's all joined together.
How much is the grant that you mentioned that we have access to for the air conditioning?
It was 3 point something, but we've spent that on heart monitors. We spent it on, gosh, a lot of stuff that you all have approved.
Yeah.
New roof, new phone system for the sheriff's department, roof on this building. And we'll know within the next 10 days or whenever they sign a die in Nashville, General Assembly. It's in the governor's budget to give us another $3.4 or $6 million in this year's budget, but they're thinking about, depends on the money that comes down from the Treasury. If we get that and it can be spent on capital projects, then the governor's going to pull his out of the budget and not approve it. So we're kind of in a three-week maybe window of determining where the buckets of money are coming from and what we can spend it on. But I don't mind going forward to budget and requesting that money that's in that governor's enhancement grant allocated for the air conditioning, that we use that to hire the engineer, the structural engineer, if that is.
Well, I'm thinking we could use it because, looking at me personally, I'm not going to vote to put a $900,000 air conditioning in that building until I know what kind of use it's going to give me down the road. So, do you need a motion to that effect?
Ben, Phil, y'all have any idea what a structural engineer costs?
I hired one years ago, but it's been a while since I have, so I'm not sure exactly what they're charging now, but I'd say similar to an architect fee. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would say it would be in the multiple thousands of dollars, anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000 for a full diagnostic.
25 to 50,000, okay.
That's just a best guess, but I would say that's probably because they'll have to do some, investigations into the walls. They'll have to do camera probes like Ben's talking about doing and things like that, so.
Chairman McAdoo, do you remember when they did that study after the Judicial Center was built? Do you remember how extensive they did the Goldstein building?
I can't remember the actual figure, but we had done some studies over there when we were looking at our building program of several buildings, especially the new judicial building. They had brought up in that meeting, PBA may have some idea, may want to talk to them, because when we were having all this discussion on all these buildings under Mayor Burgess.
Space needs analysis?
Yeah, space need analysis. We had, you're right, we had some engineering study done on that building.
I have the study.
I don't know
You've
how
got the study?
in depth.
Mm-hmm.
All right, why don't you look at that tomorrow, if you can find it, and we'll first go there.
Yeah.
See what we can determine.
I don't know how it was. I want to say it was more of a space study than it was anything structural, but there may still be information in that study that
They
would.
want to talk to the PBA board too. They may have some information on it. Commissioner Johnson?
Okay. What's the square footage of that building over there? Mike, do you know? You have any idea?
I do not. I'd have to dig up that space study that Ben was talking about, but I was thinking in the neighborhood of 36 to 40,000, something like that.
I was going to say 36, but I'm not positive. But I
If
think
you count the basement, it throws in a little bit more, but the basement has a low ceiling, and it's just used for storage.
Okay. Question for you, Phil. Is there, of course this may be like asking how high is up, is there a standard figure for commercial construction per square foot for office space, like for a building like that, for say a 3-story building with 30,000 square feet, how much per square feet it will be?
I think we could defer back to our experience that we just had recently, and plus that they talked to the contractor across the street. 125 to 180. 125 to 180 is just off.
Yeah, it depends on how plush you want to make it, or you could probably find an architect that could come in and replace that building and build it where it's architecturally historic looking, on the outside.
That's a $5,400,000 conversation.
Okay. But it'd be kind of interesting for something to compare to say, well, we could build a 30,000 3-story building for X number of dollars, and look at what's already been spent on that money pit over there, and kind of extrapolate what the dying thing is going to keep continuing to cost.
Yeah, I think Brett's comment was 125, as Mr. Sandlin said, on a 6-story building to go where the gazebo is, so it's about $5 million. So I guess we could back into it and figure out what it would cost to totally renovate it or get a structural engineer, and if it's $3.5 million, then you got something to look at,
Think we can get all this done and brought back to this committee by the next meeting?
No, sir. I don't think we can get a structural engineer.
No, just the concept.
Oh, we can get a concept, yeah, by next meeting.
Well, yeah, when he discussed with PBA what we did do over there.
Mike, can you help us locate a structural engineer?
I think I have a copy of that space study that Ben was talking about as
okay.
well.
Bring all that information back next meeting.
We can put our heads together.
Probably help us.
Earlier in the conversation, I think that there was mention of maybe moving the election commission. Now, if I remember correctly, their warehouse and storage is on East Vine. And I think the the public, I think the Election Commission is on record saying that they need to be on the square for various reasons, for access to that warehouse. The public has always had a early voting.
I think it's
voting
number
option.
one precinct in the.
Yeah, but have you seen that precinct, the warehouse on East Vine? It's in my district, and I've been totally against it from day one. It's in the worst part of the city of Murfreesboro. That's the reason we can't, when we have elections or whatever over there, we can't get hardly anybody really to come even over there to register to vote, to do anything.
But don't they have a voting precinct at the Election Commission itself?
They do. It's no parking, no nothing. I wish Commissioner Gannon brother was up here. He could definitely fill us in on that area. But as far as trying to save the Election Commission on the square, I'm not getting a lot of feedback.
Well, I think it's just probably a conversation we need to have with that stakeholder to kind of see, what their thoughts are as far as
I did.
moving.
I mentioned that to Mr. Farley when it first came out. That actually came out of the PBA meeting, and he said it would be closer for him for where he lives. He said, but he'd prefer to stay down here on the square.
And I had one other comment. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If we did renovate that building and it was empty, the price of that air conditioning would go down substantially, several $100,000. The reason that air conditioning was so high is because we were going to have to keep the building in operation at the same time all that was going to be installed, and it was so that you can't add all the new ductwork and everything with a building with all the folks in it. So that's just, I just wanted to add that would change the price.
Different zones in the building, right?
Correct. We're trying to cool and heat and cool too many areas with too few units, and so there's
chopped up
too much shared space.
So do we need a motion to ask for a study, or is that just something that you can go ahead and?
Well, yeah, you ask for the study, and then with your recommendation of the committee, we'll send it on to budget and request to use those funds, if we can do that, out of what we had earmarked for the HVAC of the governor's expansion grant.
That's all right.
Well, let me go ahead and if that's okay, I make a motion that we authorize the mayor's office to conduct a study and send that request to the budget committee for approval for funding.
Okay.
Motion and a second.
Second.
Got a second. There any discussion on it?
So are we going to refer to his study that he has? Are we going to look at that too?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, that might save us some money when we locate a structural engineer to already have that study showing the building and the square footage and how it's laid out.
Yes, sir. It has the floor plans in it, who's occupying each floor and whatnot.
But
the layout of the room.
That might help eliminate one step and make it cheaper for the engineer.
As I recall,
Was this study made a year or two ago? I'm thinking it was last year sometime.
It was
Mayor Burgess.
before me, and I've been here 2.5 years, so it's 3.5 years ago.
during Mayor Burgess, at one time we had the deputy director office somewhere in that Goldstein building in the basement or somewhere. I remember that.
He was right at the end of the underneath the mezzanine, where the veterans office is now. That's where he was.
Okay. So I'm pretty sure we can dig up that information, and hopefully we can get that information brought to us next meeting.
Yes, sir. We'll work on that.
And then we can go ahead with this motion to secure the funds to proceed further.
Another question. Can we
Commissioner
use,
Buchanan?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Can we use, Mayor, your money to pay for some of this too?
Out of the
Because it's
governor's,
capital, right?
yeah, out of the governor's
Yes.
enhancement grant. That's
motion.
what the motion is, that I go to budget and request it from that money
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that's what.
allocated for the HVAC.
Any more discussion on this motion?
Can you repeat the motion? How it's read, how it's going to be read?
Motion to authorize funding to conduct study for Goldstein Building using the state capital grant funds,
Governor's enhancement
government
grant.
enhancement.
And it does say the study.
Correct.
That was
Authorize funds for the study.
Do all of us understand the motion?
This will be a motion for a study.
Correct.
Okay.
Diagnostic.
And if your study that you find, if it shows what we need to see, then we won't have to do the other study. Is that what I'm understanding?
No.
No, we're going to go ahead and do this.
It will have some information,
Okay,
but I don't
gotcha.
know that it's not going to have
It's not gonna be
the brick and mortar
100%
part.
complete.
Totally understand. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion?
I'm just,
Commissioner
thank you,
Gooch?
Mr. Chair, that hope that you can support this. I think this study will let us know the feasibility of it. The study may come back and say, it's not a good idea, and then we can move forward with that. But I think it's worth to know how much it would cost and what really needs to be done to make this building 100% whole. So I hope that you'll support the motion.
Want to understand? If so, call the roll.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Buchanan?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Chairman McAdoo?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, next on the agenda is Archives Building. You want to stay up here and go ahead?
Okay, I can take that. The Archives building is finished, minus it's got a few items on the punch list, very minor. And in the next couple of weeks, they'll be sealing and striping the parking lot, which is the final step. And John, I think, has already started moving some stuff in there, so he seems to be pretty happy about it. And that's the,
What about 20 North? We just toured.
it's 20 North. OIT is currently moving in to the 4th and 5th floors. They're setting up furniture. It's arrived on the 1st and 2nd floor. The 3rd floor is 80% complete and it should be finished by June 1st. The elevator modernization is ongoing on the front elevator. They're still about 3 weeks away on that. The flooring will start on the 3rd floor on Monday. The final paint is ongoing on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. The roof repair, we met with the roof contractor and the consultant that we're using about a week ago, and I think they should be starting that within 2 weeks from now.
About One Stop.
Mr. Chairman, before we go to One Stop real quick, I just want to tell everybody what we'd like to do is pick a weekend for open house at the archives, and kind of send out public notice, let people come by and let them know what we've done in that building. And then at an appropriate time, we'll do one here once we get the museum done downstairs, once IT gets all their stuff moved totally out, which we should be able to start demoing maybe, Ben, next week.
Could be. Yes,
Could be.
sir.
Start
We'll
demoing
do our best,
downstairs
yeah.
where IT's moved up, and we'll let Mr. Lodell, Mr. West, and Ben's crew start doing the museum, and we'll do an open house sometime in June maybe, and invite all the property owners, all the shop owners around the square, run an ad in the paper and let people come down and see the historic courthouse and take a tour over there as well.
And I just want to take this opportunity, Ben, thank you today for our tour, Mr. McAdoo and Mr. Mayor, for giving us the tour. It was very insightful, and it's always good to see what we fund and the progress of that with visually. So thank you so much again.
Okay, one stop.
Talked to Mr. Klein as late as this morning. Lisa, ask you a question. Have you all worked everything out? You're all good as can be? Okay, so when I talked to him this morning. He's sending the final design, I guess it is, to us. He's sending it to the lady with the state of Tennessee at the stream department of general services, and whenever within the next 2 weeks, I think it will be presented to the Capital Project Commission, where the governor, both speakers, and the constitutional officers all sit on that commission. They'll have a whole list from Mountain City to Memphis of projects that'll be presented, and they'll go down that list, which this building is on there for them to approve. Once that's done, then we're ready to go. We'll get that back, sign the contract, and I think we're just waiting on that to happen, and we'll turn it over to the contractor. Ben's got to get with. I think that y'all need to interview PBA needs to interview contractors.
Yes, sir. The architect made a couple of changes to the PBA's contract and for their request for qualifications. It's a little more paperwork for the contractor, I think, but it's going to make them a little more transparent. And so I've sent that contract with some changes noted to the PBA's attorney, and I'm just waiting on that to get that back. And I've already got a list of contractors that we're going to try to interview, and we're going to hopefully create a short list before too many more weeks. So we need to get the contractor on staff. We need to get the contractor on going along with the architect to complete the final design. So.
Okay. I think we're, like I keep saying, Lisa, we're closer than we've ever been, right? All right.
Any more questions on one stop?
Lisa, you got any questions? Have anything?
What about community care?
The community care, the lighting is installed in the F wing, and they found a coating. We were held up because of we wanted to coat the block walls with something so that they didn't look like block walls, and I think they finally found a reasonable solution, and it'll be tinted the color that they want, so there'll be a little bit of a deduct on the painting. The coating will cost a little extra, but the painting will be a little bit of a deduct. They said that they're 3 weeks away from starting that coating, and it'll take about 3 weeks to complete it. And so that's where we are. And we've also, I think, the mayor, you showed the sign that David we're looking at.
You sent me the sign. They're working on a new sign. We've never really had a sign out there, so we've got a design on a new sign to put out front where people will actually know it. And for those who are interested, if you want to come out, I got an email from Doug Bodery today, and Doug, along with Melissa Harrell, both put in $300 to buy seed for vegetables. and flowers. And they donated that, and Doug has worked it out with the ag teacher at Riverdale High School and the FFA. And on May the 1st at 9 o'clock at CCRC, they've already tilled the ground, and FFA is going to be out there planting the seeds. And of course, they're going to plant enough at the size of 2 football fields, so they're going to be able to, and we're allowed by state law to harvest those vegetables, watermelons, cantaloupe, and it's going to take it all the way through with flowers, and they're going to put flowers in the butterfly garden that's right outside. It's kind of a patio area for the patients as well. So it'll be a nice opportunity if it's a nice day, go out and see them. And I plan on going out and watching the students because they're so excited about doing something out there, and most FFAs don't have an opportunity to do something like this. You know, they just talk about it.
What time was that?
9 o'clock on Saturday morning, May 1st. Yes, sir. That's it.
Any other discussion or questions on community care? Okay, what about community library?
That's Mr. Lodell, Mrs. Shacklet, and Mr. Holden are here, all from talking about the library. Y'all want to come up and be in harmony? You got it? All right, Mr. Lodell. Mr. Chairman.
Take this off so y'all can hear me better. Thank you all for having me up tonight, explain what we're doing. First of all, while I have the spotlight and the mic, I want to thank you all specifically because you were the ones that heard the need that we needed space at the archive, saw the vision, and made it happen. So the new addition is completed, as Ben Mencken said, and it's gorgeous. Please come. Well, we're a mess right now because we're cleaning up, but it is gorgeous and we're moving in. So give us a week and then come visit. But we were busting at the seams literally, and where'd Ben? Oh, he's right there. For the past 6 weeks, if not 6 months, I'd be like, Ben, can I move in today? Can I move in today? Because we were really just on top of ourselves. And but it's a true benefit for all of us, not just the archives, because we went to probation today and got 80 boxes. We're going to circuit civil next week, juvenile detention next week, not detention, juvenile court. So it's not just us that we're busting at the seams, it's the county and all the offices. So it was a huge need. We needed it. Y'all did it. We're all benefiting from it. So come visit it. It's a beautiful space. We all did a good job. Y'all did a good job. Moving on. We came to you all with the proposal. Rita Shacklet, Director of the Library Systems here for Rutherford County. Mr. Holden everybody knows Mr. Holden, but he's currently also President of the Library Board, are here in a supporting role. 13 years ago in 2008, Limbaugh Library, Rita and her folks called me with a problem. As you all know, Limbaugh Library down here is landlocked. You know, it was built in the early 90s. Y'all were talking about the space earlier tonight. The building cannot be expanded. It went up, it can't go out, it never can. And so they need more space. They always need more space. 13 years ago, the story's the same. And the idea was back then is, what if they took their history room, which is 1,600 square feet. You know, when we're talking 30,000 square feet, that's small potatoes, but when you're landlocked, that's big potatoes. So 1,600 square feet room, and could we bring that to the archives? And you may ask, why the archives? Well, half of what we do at the archives is history, because we are blessed to have the records back to 1804, as you know, and all of what they do in the history room is history. Local, some regional, but a lot local. So the idea was, let's merge the two and have a local library and archive section. And for them, it would be a branch library, just like the library inside of Patterson Community Center. If you all visited that before, I'm sure you have. So we came to you all with Mayor Burgess, and we got your blessing. Back then, the proposal was, let us look into it. We came to you 13 years ago, 10 years ago, 8 years ago. I've lost count. And always the same thing. We asked for zero money, which you all appreciated, and we said, let's just go look into it. And we did. We've traveled to Knoxville before and a few other places in the state, looking at counties and libraries, county archives and library systems that did similar things successfully. The best examples out in Knoxville, the East Tennessee History Center. But anyway, I digress too easily. Tonight we're back with the same proposal, and we're asking for the same amount of money, which is zero. So that's already the good news.
Yeah, we like that.
Zero. That's what, $0 county dollars is what I'm asking for tonight. I'm not a good salesman, am I? I gave you all a picture of the research room at Lomball. It should be on your iPad somewhere. I don't do tech, so I literally brought paper. I'm the archivist. The problem we've had for 13 years is we weren't looking at this right. We always looked at 1,600 square feet room with all the books. There's 10,000 books, 5,000 rolls of microfilm, beautiful resource. We would love to have it at the county archives. There again, a collaboration. It's not just for our benefit. It's for the community's benefit and the library's benefit. And we always thought about picking it up and setting it down at the archives, and the problem was they have 1,600, I hope I keep saying 100, not 1,000, 1,600 square feet, and our research room is 800, half of the size that we thought we needed. So it wasn't going to work. And so when we expanded the building or talked about expanding the building, the idea was, could we do it at that time? And it just for other reasons wasn't going to work. Until Rita called me the other day and said, you got this new space. Can it work this time? 13 years later. And once we started dissecting the problem a little more, we realized, we haven't been looking at this right, because we don't have to keep it together. Because when you go to special collections at MTSU Library up on the 4th floor, you go to the library and you tell them what book they need, and they go to the back and pull it. It doesn't have to be right there with you, although it is currently at Limeball. And then the microfilm, we just converted an old room at the archives, in the old edition of the archives, section of the archives, we just converted into what we call the media vault. It houses all the microfilm for the county, or that we have for the county, along with CDs and VHS tapes and things that have been generated by the county over the years. And so now we have this beautiful climate-controlled micro environment for microfilm and other types of mixed media. It's in the back of the building, so somebody comes to the front door and needs to see some plans of something, or property tax records that are microfilm from 1990. We go to the back. They don't. We go to the back. We pull it. We stick it on the machine. There they go. So Rena and I started discussing, hey, the books don't have to stay up front. They can go in the back. The microfilm doesn't have to stay up front. It can go in the back. We can make this work. So we went to the mayor a couple of weeks ago, and Steve, and we asked them the same question, hey, could this work? And we believe that y'all are in agreement that, hey, we think this could work. So tonight we're before you with permission to proceed. We want to move the historical research room from Lomball Library to the Rutherford County Archives in a county quasi-city library system partnership. This is going to cost the county zero money. It'll be a little more money for the library. The collection would come with a librarian who would be under the directorship of Rita and therefore on her payroll. So they would be housed in our research room, but on her payroll. So there again, to them, it would be a branch library. To us, we're the Rutherford County Archives, if that makes sense. So the only true cost to any of this would be a compact microfilm storage unit. We just bought one for the county. It's $20,000. It was part of the construction. We can put 5,000 rolls of microfilm in a space of like this big. It's magic. So we would want the library system to purchase another one to piggyback the one we just installed. So the only cost there is $20,000, and then their continued payroll of their staff person at their library branch, at the archives. So I think that's probably enough information. I obviously like to ramble a lot, so I'm just going to stop there and let you all ask questions as needed. Left anything out? I think I got it all.
Mr. Chair. Okay, I'm looking at this picture of the current historical library, I suppose, and you said that half of the stuff will not be accessible to the public, that an employee would go back and bring it up.
Yeah, I can get...
What will be accessible?
Yeah, I can get a little more specific on that. Good question. So they have 5,000 books. 400 titles are specific to Murfreesboro and Rutherford County history, and the rest is more of a regional nature. Still important for genealogists, but a little more regional. So what we would do is take the Murfreesboro and Rutherford County books and put them up front, right there with the patrons, and the rest would reside in the back. But there again, they can look the books up through the library system, which we would have access at the archives now. If they saw a title they would like, the librarian would go pull it and bring it up to them, just like a special collections room at MTSU's library, for example. So they would have instant access to the most used books and still access to all books.
Commissioner Johnson?
So basically, the zero cost is going to make it more convenient for all the citizens of Rutherford County and streamline things and bring it into the 21st century. Is that what you're saying?
Said it a lot quicker and a lot easier than I did.
Well, I
appreciate that.
For the jugular.
In all honesty, the part it's in the fine print of the proposal we gave you, the long version there. We serve a same clientele. People go to the history room in the library and then come to the archives and vice versa. And we've been doing this since the archives have been there since '06, if not before, in the old location. So you're right. It would be a true benefit to the community.
Mr. Johnson?
Do you need a motion?
I would like a motion to this effect.
Yes. So moved.
I third it.
And a second, do we have any more discussion on this project?
And could you repeat the cost of the county again?
Zero.
Call for the question.
I believe that will go through budget, okay, don't you, Trey?
I think it'll make it through budget. Any discussion? If not, call the roll.
Mr. Gooch?
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Gammon?
Yes.
Mr. Dodd?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Chairman McAdoo?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other business we need to discuss tonight? If not, I entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you.